Hi, I'm David Kelley. I'm president and CEO of Chakana Copper. Chakana is advancing an emerging copper, gold, silver discovery that was made in 2017. We put out an initial resource just on a very small part of the project last year. It's a high-grade resource starting at surface. We're located in an active mining district, and we're moving that resource forward with internal studies. While at the same time, we're just in the last stages of getting an exploration permit that opens up the central and southern part of the deposit. Today, we've only drilled on the northern 1/3 of the project, so we have a tremendous large area to continue our exploration, but at the same time, we'll be advancing our knowledge and studies of this high-grade resource.
David, thank you for the introduction. Good to be speaking to you again. We did speak quite recently, and we spoke about the upcoming drilling program, and perhaps we can touch on that later. But before we get into the technicals of what Chakana is doing actually on the ground, please could you give me a quick update on your week last week at the PDAC conference, PDAC?
Yeah, it was a really interesting conference for me. I've been going there for, I think it's going on 28 or 29 years. So I've seen it go from the small, PDAC back in the 90s until the mega years. I mean, I think one year, we broke 30,000 people. This year, it was just under 24,000 people. The first thing that impressed me when I walked into the Investors Exchange was it was full. The companies are back, junior, mid-tiers, the majors were all there. And we had a great location in the Investors Exchange. We were right beside Wheaton Precious Metals and just down from Vale. So we had good, steady traffic the whole time. But what I thought was really interesting, and I don't know if you observed this, Merlin, but there was a lack of the retail investors. In years past, Sunday's almost always really busy with the retail investors. They come into downtown Toronto because they can come to the show and miss the rush hour traffic. You usually see a strong institutional turnout on Mondays and Tuesdays. We did see that. There was a lot of institutional interest in people on the floor, but I thought it was conspicuous that a lot of the retail investors were not there this year.
Yeah, no, I certainly saw that. Very, very low retail investor traffic. I felt that there was quite a large amount of industry traffic. I felt that I had lots of conversations with the larger corporates who were either copper companies looking for the next generation of copper assets or gold companies looking for copper gold assets. Did you experience the same thing with kind of lots of industry comment?
Yeah, there was a lot of interaction between us and industry, mid-tier and major mining companies. Also, hedge funds, royalty companies, good steady, traffic with regard to that. I mean, we did have a really spectacular core display set up, even though we weren't in the core shack. We set our booth up as if we were in the core shack, and many people noted that they thought we had some of the best looking drill core in the entire show, which is a real compliment. But there was particular interest in the copper part. There's very strong interest right now in copper companies. And the one thing that I've noticed is that at the show was more interest, it seemed, than the exploration upside and potential in our targets, which are, we've done all the work. We've defined the giant mega gold target that sits in the central part of the project. We think that's the intrusion source to the breccia pipes. And then at a higher elevation further to the south is the La Jolla high sulfidation epithermal environment. Again, historic drilling in that area with some very strong results. In addition to multiple other high-grade tourmaline breccia pipes. So we've got the targets, but what people wanted to talk about this year was, okay, you've got a copper resource. Copper's a hot topic right now. It's high grade. It's in an active mining district. It's in the Ancash province of Peru. It's a great place for mining. So a lot of our conversations and interest centered around the fact that we've got this high grade resource, which does have gold, does have silver, but it also shines in its copper content.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I really noticed that dislocation between the appetite for the for the energy transition, the electrification metals like copper, and there's a whole bunch of other ones I could name. So the demand drivers are visible. They're out there. They're long term. They're large scale. And yet there's so little love for junior resources. And it's the junior explorers that are nimble, that are able to operate in these kinds of environments. And yet the valuation is so low. I mean, I look at your market capitalization, and it's tough when you see what this kind of it doesn't quite connect up. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think there's just a lot of fear in the markets. We saw last week 2 U.S. banks failed, one crypto bank and then the Silicon Valley bank, which is specializes in startup tech firms, and that's a very significant event. So this fear that I've been kind of seeing in the market with people not trading, low volumes, depressed share prices, undervalued companies, even companies with attractive resources. I think a lot of that's just the fear, and then that fear is starting to be borne out in what we're seeing with the the collapsing of 2 banks and what kind of ripple effect that potentially could have. So the encouraging thing for me, Merlin, in all of this is that the smart investor has pulled back. They pulled out. They're waiting to see what's going to happen with the economy. Are we going to go into a full recession? But it also tells me that there's a lot of people keeping their powder dry. So when this does take off, there will be people that will come in, and it will move very quickly, just like we saw, with the rebound of the global financial crisis in 2009, 2010. It can take off very, very quickly. So we've seen the gold price spike up in the last few days, just on the recognition that banks can't fail. If you want to hold commodities, physical commodities, that's a great hedge against inflation. So I think a lot of these things that people have been preaching are going to come to fruition here in the next 12 months.
Yeah, and there's no way of second guessing the timing. Suddenly they just re-rate. So you've kind of got to pick the quality companies, the quality assets, and get in them and be prepared to hold it for a while and then benefit from the re-rate when it does come. One thing that is very specific to Chakana, and not just Chakana, but any other company operating in Peru, is that it is in Peru. Did you go to any jurisdiction-related events last week?
Yeah, and that was one of my major objectives of attending PDAC. I really wanted to see this new cabinet. We've talked about that. I've been very impressed with the cabinet that's been put in place since Castillo was impeached, and on paper they look very impressive. The Minister of Energy and Mines has 39 years of oil and gas experience. The Vice Minister of Mining has a long history in the natural resources space. The new Prime Minister, I've heard good things about him, but I went to 2 events. I went to the CEO Luncheon, which was an invitation event for all CEOs of mining companies and related industry services companies that are operating in Peru. And that was a big event where the Prime Minister and the Minister of Economy spoke. And then we organized a separate meeting specifically with the Minister of Energy and Mining and the the new Minister of Energy and Mines and the Vice Minister of Mining. And so those 2 events, I walked away from that with a very new and updated and refreshed perspective on what's happening in Peru.
Did anybody have the balls to talk about how long it takes to get an exploration permit?
Yeah, there was a lot of that, and I'll start by just summarizing the CEO luncheon. So the new Prime Minister, Otarola is his name, spoke, and it was very refreshing. I was worried that they were going to come to PDAC, 25,000 attendees, and kind of sweep a lot of the problems under the rug, but they didn't do that. They addressed head on the issues related to the protests. They've got 3 specific programs targeted to ramp up foreign investment in mining. They directly acknowledge the contribution that mining makes to their economy and how important it is. It's something like 60% of the exports come from mining. So it was very refreshing that they understand that there are a lot of problems, including delays in permitting, including, security issues at mine sites, the perception of foreign investment in Peru, and they're very motivated to address those issues. And that was really hammered home by the Minister of Economy when he spoke. So, that was the first event, and I walked away from that very encouraged.
And the second event, remind me what was discussed in that one.
Yes. So the second event came about when I had some of our investors express frustration to me about the fact that they put a lot of money into Chakana, and yet it's taken 2.5 years to get this permit. And I fully empathize with their frustration. I mean, I live that every day. And one of the investors, a guy named Byron King, and you guys have interviewed Byron before. He's a well-known newsletter writer and influencer in the industry. And Byron was telling me, I would love to have the opportunity to speak with the minister. If you could just line up a meeting for us, let's go in there and tell them, how frustrating it is to bring in a lot of investors into Peru and then turn around and have to sit around and wait. And so I took that idea and I ran with it, and it became clear with the ministry that they weren't going to just grant a one-off meeting to one company. If it was dealing with broader issues, they'd be happy to sit down with us. And so I sent out an invite. We ended up having 20 people respond that they wanted to attend. We had royalty companies, we had investment banks, we had private equity firms. We had a whole cross-section of the finance and investment industry, plus all the, large, medium, small mining companies show up at the meeting. And then we get there, and they would only let 5 of us into the room, which was really interesting. They wanted to have a meeting, but they did not want to have a meeting with the big crowd. So we had 15 people outside, and 5 of us went inside. We had investment bank, we had hedge fund, we had private equity firm, and a royalty company. And we went in there, we all introduced ourselves, and basically the message we gave the minister was that we're here to help, okay? We're not here to just bitch and complain. We're in the trenches. We're the ones that are putting money into Peru and try to advance projects. And there are so many different ways we could help the mining industry in Peru by providing feedback on where the bottlenecks are, how things could be streamlined, how things could be made more efficient, And they were genuinely appreciative of the fact that we weren't there to just complain to them. We were there to offer help. And so what we propose is a quarterly roundtable where we bring this cross-section of industry people to the ministry. We have topics and agenda, and one will certainly be permitting and how to make that process more efficient. When is it appropriate to have consulta previa on an exploration project? Why do we have to do reclamation work in the middle of an active exploration program? Just a myriad of things like that make the working in Peru less efficient. And so that's our goal, is to walk away from that with this roundtable that's set up with the good intentions of trying to provide feedback to help them do their job better.
Do you think that's do you think there's possibility for change there? Just because I've experienced it. I mean, in Ecuador as well, there's been talking about opening the cadastre for years, and they you go to a meeting and they say, yes, we're gonna work on this, and then the implementation is not quite the same as the ambition. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I have that same concern, Merlin, and I had so many people. And people that attended the meeting with us say, I've been to so many of these meetings with the minister, and it's always touchy-feely, and everybody shakes hands and walks away feeling good, and then nothing happens. And so that part of our reason there is to set up this roundtable. Is the roundtable, the industry group will survive the administrations, right? Part of the apathy in making change in a lot of these countries is the fact that the administrations turn over so quickly, especially in Peru. I mean, we're talking to a minister that, potentially may not be there in a year and a half or 2 years, right? After the next election. So what incentive does he have to make change if he knows that his time there is limited? And so our strategy to combat that is to have this roundtable that continues right through into a new administration, and we meet quarterly. And if somebody new shows up, we say, look, we've already had 6 meetings. We've covered all of these topics. Here are the minutes and documentation of all of those meetings. This is the progress we've made. These are the issues we still need help with. And so we're going to try to show stamina and perseverance and endurance in a way that they can't ignore it. And if they are new and want to learn about what we've done and what the challenges are, great, they can jump in and try to do something positive. But that is an issue that we're going to have to deal with.
And is this kind of an adjunct to a Chamber of Mines? Is this kind of this new initiative? Is this going to work with the existing Chamber of Mines?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we're going to be open to any and all groups. Certainly there's a lot of Australian companies working in Peru. We want to support their commerce group that is active in Peru, and of course the Canadian Chamber of Commerce is very active in Peru. So we think the more we can make this open and inclusive, the better it's going to be received. This isn't just about Dave Kelley and Chakana Copper complaining that it took 2.5 years to get our permit. But we see so many other companies have experienced similar things, and there's a lot of things, Merlin, that can be improved without drastic changes. They don't need to rewrite the mining law to make efficient changes. And I'll give you an example. When we got our environmental approval on December 27th, I opened the document. It was 300 pages, 300-page PDF resolution, and it was dated December 15th. And I thought, well, why am I just now getting this if the date is December 15th? If we got to December 15th, we could have had an interview. We could have, put some news out on it. Instead, we get it right at the end of December. Well, the first 94 pages were individually signed manually by 14 different people. And I'm sure it took almost 2 weeks for that document to move its way around Lima while somebody had it on their desk and they signed the first 94 pages, and then it went to the next person, right? And so it's those kind of things that just really frustrate you when you've got a good mining law and a really good environmental regulatory code to follow in the mining industry. Yet the way it's being implemented is in a way that just doesn't promote efficiency and expediency.
Luckily, you've got the permit and you're going to be drilling. So
yeah.
So the plan is to...
Yeah, we got the environmental approval. We're just in the final stages of initiation of activities. We've been told that our private land permit, which covers the Mega Gold target and the La Jolla system and several other breccia pipes, will not involve Consulta Previa. There is a part to the west that has a very attractive Compañero breccia pipes that are very high-grade gold, right at surface, copper oxide staining. Those likely will have to go through Consulta Previa, but as long as we can get this private land permitted, initiation of activities approved, we're hoping that we could be drilling in May, and that would be a really exciting time for us. We've generally done very well with new discovery and exploration drilling. We're into the meat of the mineral system now. We think we know where this intrusion driving the whole thing is sitting. And we've got multiple lines of evidence for that. We've done all the targeting work and exploration. It's ready to drill. So this is a really exciting time for us and our shareholders.
And I was talking to someone at PDAC who introduced me to a Peruvian geologist who worked with Bob Lowell, David Lowell. I'm mixing up my Bob Gilberts, my David Lowells. A Peruvian geologist who worked with David Lowell, and Mega Gold's one of their anomalies, isn't it? It's kind of a historic prospect.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for bringing that up. David Lowell originally staked the land on the south side of the valley before Purina was discovered. It was part of his prospect exploration, prospecting exploration up and down the Cordillera Negra, and he liked that area. He staked it. He liked, all up and down the Cordillera Negra, and then that company became part of Piarina. Once the Piarina discovery was made, all eyes were on that. But those claims were held, and as you know, Barrick eventually acquired Piarina, and they got the entire David Lowell land package at the time, and these claims are still part of that original staking by David Lowell back in the day, and Barrick has held on to those, and so it's very exciting. And I know another very successful geologist that worked in Peru, Canadian geologist, that said that one of his regrets in Peru is that he was never able to find the source of one of the strongest Bleg anomalies that he had ever collected in all of Peru, and it was the drainage that we're in right there. And I showed this to him. I showed our mega gold target to him, and I said, I think we found the source of your Bleg anomaly. Two of the drainages that come out of that side of the mountain have, one has 33 pristine gold grains, and another has 22 and 19 in two separate samples. So there's gold literally shedding off of that mountain. On the south side, we have the huge soil anomaly, which is about 2.5 by a kilometer in area. And then within that, of course, we've got the geophysical anomalies that we think is where the main sulfide source is accumulating, is the source of those anomalies. And
this is why we love exploration, because you've got that chance to create real value with the drill bit, following good science.
That's right. Yeah. Yep, we've got the high-grade tourmaline breccia pipe demonstrated. That's going to continue to grow. The pipes are open at depth. We have multiple other pipes to drill that are mineralized sitting at surface. So that part of the story is going to have its own life, and it's going to add value with additional work. Now we're swinging for the fence. We're going for the large tonnage, disseminated copper gold target that sits in the middle of the project. We're going to get up onto this high sulfidation area that was drilled by Buenaventura back in the 80s with some very, very high silver grades and some gold. We don't think that system was drilled deep enough. It's very shallow drilling. So we've got some very exciting large tonnage targets to test, as well as, continuing to advance the high-grade story.
David, good luck. Thank you very much for your time today, and I look forward to the next update, perhaps when you've started drilling.
Thank you very much, Merlin. Appreciate your time.